What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and I just got done updating the rest of season rankings. I drop those every single week on Patreon, patreon.com/Ron Stewart. It has all of my rest of season rankings, my weekly rankings, all that good stuff. But every week, you really sitting down and doing the rest of season rankings, I got to really critically think about who I'm moving up, who I'm moving down, and kind of the reasoning behind that. So I wanted to hop on here, make a nice little video out of it, and talk about 5 players that are skyrocketing up my rest of season rankings, and kind of cover, why I moved them up by so much and kind of what I'd be looking to do with them if I own them in redraft. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys, after writing the outline, all 5 of these players are pretty much buys. Like, they're moving up for a reason. So this is honestly kind of a trade target video, but regardless, wanted to cover 5 players that I'm really into right now. Now, before we get into that, make sure you go down below, subscribe, leave a like. We post daily fantasy football content on this channel. So if you want to win your championships, stay for a good time, make sure you subscribe. With that being said, let's go.
Thirsty, trying to choose. I know I'm pretty cool. My nitty bag.
All right, so the first running back that we're going to talk about, or the first player we're going to talk about, is A.J. Dillon. And I know that everyone's been talking about A.J. Dillon this week. I covered him in the waiver wire video, but everyone's talking about him from a waiver wire perspective. But how much you should bid on him, or if he's on your waivers, you should have him. And just kind of the idea that we all get it. A.J. Dillon, Aaron Jones is gone. A.J. Dillon is going to be great. But I don't think anyone's really covered how to view A.J. Dillon moving forward, right? I moved him from my RB32 to my RB22, so up 10 spots. I have him as a back-end RB2 rest of season. Now, obviously, that's really hard to gauge, right? Because with Aaron Jones gone, it skyrockets the rankings. The problem is that you're getting, it's kind of choppy production. You're getting like 2 solid weeks out of A.J. Dillon, and then when Aaron Jones comes back, it falls off. So it's really hard to really gauge, at what point would I pay the price for 2 really good weeks and a bunch of, flex kind of weeks. Now, before we even dive into that kind of thing, let's just talk about A.J. Dillon and what he means moving forward. Aaron Jones leaves. He's going to be gone for the next 1 to 2 weeks. I'm seeing also 2 to 4 weeks. My guess is that he misses Aaron Jones. He misses week 11, week 12. They rest him during the bye, and then he comes back in week 13. So essentially, you're getting A.J. Dillon for 2 weeks. And what he did last week while Aaron Jones was gone was he put up 21 carries, 62 yards, and 2 touchdowns on the ground, 2 catches for 62 yards through the air, which is insane. 62 yards through the air and only 2 catches means, of course, he's not the same receiver as Aaron Jones, but if you just get it out to him in space, he's going to bowl over these DBs. If you look at his player profiler here, runs a 4.53, 6 foot flat, 247 pounds. Like, he is a Derrick Henry type specimen, which means, that's exciting. He's essentially going to be an RB1 here for the next 2 weeks. Now, he does have a bye. Then weeks 14 through 17, that's the problem. It's a 2-part thing here with A.J. Dillon, because we're talking about, okay, he's going to be an RB1 for the next 2 weeks. That's understood. But after the bye is where we kind of have to start understanding the range of outcomes here, because I think that, first of all, one thing that could happen is Aaron Jones is currently on track to come back week 14, but there is a chance that he could miss 1 more week and then probably come back 15. I think that is the absolute latest that we see Aaron Jones miss time, is him coming back week 15. Now, there is also some upside that A.J. Dillon maybe runs away with the job, but I can't imagine he'll never, I don't mean run away from the job. I know you guys are going to go crazy that I even said that, but get to a point where it's now a 50% opportunity split between him and Aaron Jones, where it is a true split backfield, where there is no allegiance to either of them. Now, I don't think that happens either, but if it does, A.J. Dillon, 50% opportunity share, probably still not enough to remain as an RB1. So you're 100% getting an RB1 for the next 2 weeks. You get a bye week, and then you get, at best, back-end RB2 usage moving forward. And where it gets tough is, what do you do with A.J. Dillon? Do you sell him high? Do you ride him out? And it's especially tough because if I lean sell high, but his price isn't anything crazy right now. So you do wonder if maybe you wait for him to play against the Vikings, see a full game of A.J. Dillon, and then maybe you sell him even higher there. The problem is that I imagine the market reacts, even if everyone's head over heels for A.J. Dillon, they still know that Aaron Jones is in the back of their head, that he's going to come back. And then he only has 1 more week after that with a bye. So he only has 1 more RB1 week after this week against the Vikings. So I don't see a lot of room for his value to grow, unless if there's like a setback with Aaron Jones. So my take with AJ Dillon is we talked about why he's moving up my ranks, but the idea of gauging his value comes with the idea that he is going to be an RB1 for the next 2 weeks, bye week, and then probably be a flex play moving forward. So the way I'm playing it is if I need wins now, I'm going to keep holding AJ Dillon. If you need wins now, you hold and you pray that he gives you 2 wins. And then, he did his thing. He gave you 2 wins here. If he can give you a really good week 11, a really good week 12, and then go on by, you kind of just kiss the sweet prince goodnight, and that's just how it is. And on the flip side, if you have AJ Dillon right now and you're a top 2 team, so you have a bye week locked in, right? That's in a league with 6 playoff teams. If you have a bye week locked in, you got to be playing it a little bit more long term. Because if you have a bye week locked in, you just want to have the most stacked team possible for those last 2 rounds. And with AJ Dillon, I lean sell. I think that you should sell AJ Dillon, given the fact that. So, okay, I was saying earlier that all these are buys. I think AJ Dillon is the one sell that is skyrocketing on my ranks. I would be looking to sell, because if AJ Dillon isn't your RB2 in like a hero RB build, where maybe you have like DeAndre Swift or Ezekiel Elliott, and you're streaming RB2s, and AJ Dillon just became this gift to you, then fine, ride that out, do whatever with it. But if he's starting in your flex and you have like multiple running backs to pick from, and maybe he's like you have him and a bunch of other guys to pick from, then I don't mind selling him. You grab a piece with AJ Dillon and you give him to an owner that needs that running back right now. A guy who just had Aaron Jones go down, a guy who just had, just is really thin at running backs and need wins right now. Guys that are like 5-5, 4-6, they need wins immediately. Go to that owner, give them AJ Dillon. I used the Reddit trade value chart, so don't come at me. That's going to be where the trade values are at for this video. The trade value chart says that you can do AJ Dillon and Jerry Jeudy and go get either AJ Brown or DK Metcalf. Also, side note, if anybody out there in your league is panicking on AJ Brown or DK Metcalf, send out offers for those guys. Now, they're not skyrocketing up my rankings, so I'm not going to do a whole blurb about them, but that was my spiel on AJ Dillon. Let me know how you guys felt about that. I just wanted to give a different take and just kind of how we're valuing AJ Dillon moving forward in terms of, trade value and that stuff. So I think a lot of people are just kind of coming at it from, okay, Aaron Jones is gone, that means good for AJ Dillon. Not really, how do we rank him, and what kind of offers can we make for AJ Dillon moving forward? Now, our next guy here is going to be Odell Beckham. I paused really long on that because I pulled up the wrong picture. But with Odell Beckham, everybody loves to hate on Odell Beckham, man. And that's what gives that stink on Odell Beckham, where I lean buy here because his price isn't going to be where I have him at. I moved him from wide receiver 39. So again, this is where he didn't have a team last week when I ranked him. He gets signed by the Rams, and then Robert Woods tears his ACL. All of that happening moved him from wide receiver 39 to wide receiver 29. I have him as a high-end wide receiver 3 at this point. I'm pretty bullish on OBJ. And the reason for that is I'm throwing away this week. He ran a route on 25% of the Rams' pass plays. They were just easing him in. He doesn't know the playbook yet. He has a bye, so now he can get acclimated to the offense. I also doubt that a lot of people out there are talking about, Van Jefferson, or he's not going to get a ton of playing time. They're not going to, Odell Beckham is a guy who definitely, when he was reaching out to teams, he was saying, how much playing time am I going to get? Where am I at in the depth chart if I came right now? I know that they were saying, McVay told them that they're going to run a lot more, I want to say that's 10 personnel, where they come out there with 4 wide receivers. And this landing spot is really juicy given the fact that Robert Woods went down. If Robert Woods didn't go down, I probably wouldn't have budged him that much from wide receiver 39, but Kupp is going to get 30 to 35% of the targets, and then that is 65 to 70% of the targets going to non-Cooper Kupp wide receivers, and we're talking about guys like Tyler Higbee, Van Jefferson, Ben Skowronek out of Notre Dame, or maybe it's either Wake Forest or Notre Dame. I remember scouting him coming out, but this is a high-scoring offense, and there's really not much out there in terms of competition besides Kupp. So I really like this landing spot for OBJ, and I don't think that OBJ is washed. He's tied for 4th in open rate versus single-man coverage. Now, Van Jefferson has been good, in terms of fantasy, but he's bottom 6 in that stat against single-man coverage. Let me pull up the tweet real. Yeah, so this is the picture I wanted to show, and Jacob Sanderson, really good follow, just one of the sharpest dudes out there that doesn't have a huge platform on YouTube. Per Dwayne McFarland, Odell Beckham is tied for 4th in the NFL, across the entire NFL, and getting open versus single-man coverage. He gets open 51% of the time. That's pretty good that he's not washed at this point. He is winning against man. He's still getting open. His reception perception last year was really good. It was the best it's been since his prime. He is still, in my opinion, the Odell Beckham that we really know. Now, people are going to say, Van Jefferson's going to be out there in 2 wide receiver sets, this and that about Van Jefferson. I didn't like Van Jefferson coming out. He was an old prospect. He wasn't good as a prospect. He face-planted in year 1. There's a lot of things to not like about Van Jefferson's prospect profile or just his profile in general, and he's also tied for 6th from the bottom in terms of getting open against man coverage. He is not as talented as Odell Beckham. I'm going to say that Odell Beckham will be the primary number 2 wide receiver, and we're going to see Van Jefferson as, the deep shot guy. He's going to be the one going down the field on the deep shots. We're probably going to have Odell Beckham operating like the intermediate range, and you're going to have Kupp underneath. And with that being said, OBJ in the wide receiver 2 spot on a high-scoring offense, I'm buying him anywhere because his price is so low, man. Nobody wants to give OBJ a chance on these trade value charts. They think that what he did on the Monday night game, there's just a sour taste in everyone's mouth. He only played on 25% of pass plays. He doesn't know the playbook yet. They're not going to have him out there, on a full slate of work. But now he has the bye to work into the offense. So I really like him moving forward. And you can get him straight up, apparently, on these Reddit trade value charts for Devonta Freeman, Darrell Williams, Christian Kirk, Cortland Sutton, Mark Ingram. So just guys that are, thin, running back fill-ins. Go to a team that's thin at running back, offer one of those running back fill-ins, and you can go get OBJ and get some massive upside at your wide receiver spot if you're out there where you went, 2 running backs off the bat, or you need that wide receiver upside. It's a really, really nice trade to go out there and try and do, especially with him on bye. Everyone wants to give up Odell Beckham, and nobody really has any allegiance to Odell Beckham at this point. Then we have a guy that's a little bit under the radar, I would say. It's Hunter Renfrow. And I'm kind of done disrespecting Hunter Renfrow like the rest of the market is. I'm just down to respect his game at this point. He went from wide receiver 50 in my rest of season ranks to wide receiver 36 this week. I now have him as a top 36 wide receiver. And it's for good reason. He's been really good, man. Since Ruggs left the team in week 8, his points per game is 17.8 points per game, 10th in the league. He had 16 expected points per game, so that's he's not just winning by insane efficiency. His volume says that he should be in the 16 point per game range, which was 15th during that span. He's been demanding targets. He's been out there playing great. I also want to say that he's a top 30 wide receiver on the season, regardless, even with Ruggs in the lineup through 8. He is a top 36 wide receiver you can get for cheap. If you just need a guy, a flex option, a guy out there that can just give you something, especially in leagues that are 3 wide receivers, 2 or 3 flexes where you really need to have that depth, he's perfect. And on top of that, I really when I make my rest of season rankings, I look at the Football Guys rest of season's points projections. So they come out with projections. How many points is this player going to score over the course of the rest of the season? He's projected to score 96.7 points for the rest of the season, which is wide receiver 21 on that list. It's time to start respecting him moving forward. Right now, according to the Reddit trade value chart, you can get Hunter Renfrow straight up for guys on your bench like Kenyon Drake, Darnell Mooney, just guys that you can just swap for Hunter Renfrow. I also don't mind if you want to swap studs, where you can do I don't know, if you could do if you could do Najee for Jonathan Taylor and Hunter Renfrow, I would do that. Swap from a guy that you value pretty similarly, or even I'm trying to think of another one, but even something I don't know. I would maybe even do something like Diggs for Justin Jefferson and Hunter Renfrow. That's if you need the depth. If you need that added depth, then I don't mind making a stud-for-stud switch with the juice being Hunter Renfrow. That's a weird move I don't do often, but it is, something in the range of outcomes. Now, moving on from Hunter Renfrow, we got Miles Sanders. And I actually love Miles Sanders. I loved him coming out of Penn State. He was a second-round pick. He was really athletic. He kind of has a similar profile. He was a poor man's version of DeAndre Swift is his prospect profile. Now, I think that he actually probably would have been a better prospect had he not gone to Penn State. And, he sat behind Saquon Barkley for 2 years. But regardless, I thought that he was very talented. He has size. 5'11", 211 is that nice. It's a decent, in that Christian McCaffrey range of size. He catches the ball well. He's fast. He's explosive. He just has never really, had things break right for him. He was the RB17 in points per game last year. He was the RB21 in points per game as a rookie. I just don't believe that he is just all of a sudden not a good player at this point. And he moved from my running back 28 to my running back 25. So I'm starting to really move him up the rankings. I'm starting to really like him moving forward. And hold on, water break for a second here. I don't know. I think I'm a little bit sick. I'm either a little bit sick or I'm just talking too much. Regardless, Miles Sanders, even this year, his points per game has been bad. It's been outside the top 40, but it's been more of a function of volume than it's been of efficiency. If you look here, yards created per touch, he's 15th. Breakaway run rate, he's 5th. That's, the numbers of a pretty talented running back. Again, I think it's more of a volume thing than it is an efficiency thing. And the reason why I'm bullish on Miles Sanders moving forward is the fact that you see them, kind of tilting the scales towards the run. I hope that this is big enough for you guys. But if you look, right, so the chart right here, right, it shows, weeks 1 through 7. And the Eagles have become a running team since then. So 1 through 7, they played with Miles Sanders. And in those weeks, the whole entire running backfield, they averaged 15 carries a week. And Miles Sanders averaged 9 carries per game. Then you look at weeks 8 through 10. In those weeks, the running back room averaged 30 carries per game. So they're doubling their rush attempts per game, which is insanity. And the wild part is that they go from 15 carries per game to 30 carries per game. And if you take Miles Sanders 9 carries per game when there was only 15 carries to go around, he had a 60% rushing rush share, which isn't anything wild. That's not anything too crazy. And even if he just holds that same exact 60% running back share in this run-heavy environment of 30 carries per game, he's going to be in the 18 carries per game area. And he's so efficient that if he saw 18 carries per game, fellas, like we're talking about a top, 16, 17 type running back here. He doesn't usually see that volume. He's seen only 3 games in his entire career over 18 carries. So if he came into this environment, this would be the most run-heavy environment he's ever been in. And if he assumes even a workload of 50%, so let's say he was at 60% before injury, he comes back from injury, and they bring him back to 50% because they want to kind of ease him in. That's still 15 of 30 carries, which is 6 more than the 9 carries per game he had in the beginning of the year. So he's going to see a huge volume increase the minute he's healthy. And because he's been efficient his entire career, and I do believe he's a talented player, if you give Miles Sanders 15 or more touches per game, he's a pretty firm locked and loaded RB2. So I love him as a buy low. If you own him, hold on. Like I said, I have him from wide receiver 28 from running back 28 to running back 25. I keep moving him up. Apparently, you can do something like Cortland Sutton and like a Chuba Hubbard, like a backup running back, and you can go get a Miles Sanders. You can get him for dirt cheap right now. He's being valued on that Reddit trade value chart at like running back like 33, running back 34. He's also a great dynasty buy. In dynasty, he's outside of the top 30 running backs on keep trade cut. So again, Miles Sanders skyrocketing on my rankings because he's coming back from injury into a completely different environment. The environment that we saw where he was the running back 40 in points per game isn't the same running environment that he's coming into now. They're rushing the ball a lot more. Now, our last player on this list went from not even on my rest of season rankings to quarterback 14, and we're talking about Cam Newton. He is now my quarterback 14 in my rest of season quarterback rankings. He was the QB 16 this week on 8 snaps. He had 8 snaps. It's insane. 8 snaps. He scored 2 touchdowns, a passing touchdown to Robbie Anderson, a rushing touchdown into the end zone. I think that he still has juice, man. He still has legit, league-breaking upside. And we're talking about Cam Newton, a guy who is literally a goal line running back. And I'm not really hearing the idea that, Cam Newton has fallen off and he's not good anymore. The rushing's still there. The goal line stuff is all still there. And the passing never regressed. People think that he's washed as a passer. He's not good as a passer anymore. And Drew Oceanuk, DFB Encounter, outlined this really good. He is probably my number one go-to person for Cam Newton takes. He has been on the Cam Newton train for a long time here. And Drew outlines it really well here. He showed the reason why his passing numbers were so bad in 2020 was because it was a volume thing. The Patriots, they played a really slow pace last year. They really didn't let Cam Newton throw the ball a lot. They wanted to just run the ball. And because of that, he only had 24 pass attempts per game. That's 22% lower than his career average. He usually averages around 31 pass attempts per game. That's a massive difference. And the thing is that while that volume was down, his efficiency was actually fine. He had a 7.2 yards per attempt, which is right in that area of, his prime from like 2012 to 2016. If you look from 2012 to 2016, he was in that, 7.1 yards per attempt, 7 yards per attempt. He was in that range. And then he saw a 6.4 adjusted yards per attempt, which is in that same range of, again, that 2016, he saw 6.4. 2014, he saw 6.6. He still has, in that same range. He also had a 65% completion percentage, which was, his second highest of his entire career. I think if any, he's still the same passer he's always been. The volume was just not great last year. And I think in this Joe Brady offense, he's going to come out here. He's going to pass more. He has now Christian McCaffrey, Terrace Marshall, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, which is a far, far improvement from guys last year that he had, like, who was he throwing to? Devin Asiasi, Jacoby Myers, N'Keal Harry, just an absolute shit show of a wide receiver room. Now he's coming into Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Terrace Marshall. He has all of these weapons. They're going to pass the ball a ton. They already showed that he has a goal line package set up for Cam Newton. Now, I love him to be like a league winner quarterback type guy in Superflex. I don't mind, trading for him in one quarterback league. Like if you're streaming quarterbacks, I don't mind trading for Cam Newton or going to grab him. I don't mind if you have an elite quarterback, if you want to trade that elite quarterback away and then grab Cam Newton up off waivers. But I really do like Cam Newton. I love him as a dynasty buy. I'm trying to get him in a league I'm contending in right now. I have the owner on the fence, but Cam Newton looks really strong rest of season if he can get that starting job. I don't imagine that Sam Darnold or PJ Walker have, any kind of grip on the starting quarterback spot. So it's only a matter of time until Cam Newton starts absolutely dominating. Now, that's going to do it for us today, fellas. As always, if you want access to all of these rest of season rankings, make sure you go to the Patreon, patreon.com/RonStewart. It'll be in the description, be down below in the comments. I got to run because I got to go hop on my weekly rankings. So I do weekly rankings every week for the Patreon where I go through all the matchups, do the top 50 running backs, top 60 wide receivers for 0.5 PPR, PPR standard, all that stuff. So it takes me a ton of time. And we have the Thursday night game on tonight as well. By the time you guys see this, though, it'll be Friday. Now, I love you guys. You made it this far. Appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe, leave a like. And as always, I will see you guys in the next one.
I got the juice, I got the juice.
10-0, Chatham's on. Foolies glad I'm home. Even my haters kinda glad I'm on. Rest in peace to my vagabond. Rapper, song, singer, suspended, subpoena from misdemeanor.